We're going on to chapter 12, but I'm just summarizing what we learned in chapter. I should go back to chapter 10 and chapter 11, because chapter 10 we talked about the tzaddikim, the two types of tzaddikim. There's a tzaddik that has some bad in him, and there's a tzaddik that's all completely good. There's a Rasha who has some good in him, and there's a Rasha who's completely bad. Hi, Ramon. Have a seat. Take a page. So we discussed first the tzaddikim side. And we discussed how could it be that a tzaddik has some bad in him? He has some bad in him. He's not a tzaddik. Because definition of a tzaddik is somebody who has no yetzer hara. So if he has some bad, he's not a tzaddik. He's an incomplete tzaddik, but doesn't mean he's not completely a tzaddik. He's completely a tzaddik, but there's something incomplete about him. So we said the problem is that he doesn't have absolute utter disdain for the bad. Like he doesn't like bad because it gets in his way and doesn't allow him to approach, to have his divine experience and cleave to God through it, but he doesn't have absolute utter disdain for it. And so therefore he hasn't completely divested himself of it. There's no urge to do anything bad. As far as yetzer hara is concerned, it's zero. It's down to zero. But there's still something potential there. And the proof is that another tzaddik could come along and say, oh, this is set to zero. Let me set it to 100, positive. And he could take that yetzer hara and make it into a yetzer tov. Okay, but the incomplete tzaddik can't do that. He just turns it to zero. Because he doesn't have absolute utter disdain for bad. So then there's the complete tzaddik. He's on a whole different level altogether. So the tzaddik's on a different level. A tzaddik in general is on a different level from the rest of us because he's the guy who's no longer fighting a war. It's like somebody who took over the country. It's his now. There's no war going on. The complete tzaddik, he didn't just take over the country. He's the hero of everybody. Everybody's on his side. There's no enemies whatsoever. It's like there never was a war to begin with. Okay, then in chapter 11, we discussed two types of Rasha. There's a Rasha who has some good in him. The proof that he has some good in him is he has regrets. Oh, Clay, you turned up. When would you appear? And I look over there, all of a sudden, boom, just like that. He beamed himself in. Okay, so there is a Rasha who he's good. He does things right. He keeps doing things right. Once in a while, he messes up, and then he says, "I shouldn't have done that. I won't do that again." But then he messes up. Okay, he keeps on slipping back to it. So in common parlance, we call this an addict. Right? But he's a light addict. It's just like once in a while he messes up. And you have others who quite frequently they're messing up. And or it could be like, and it goes a whole big deal. His whole life gets messed up. But then, mental barbarism. But then he has regrets again. He has regrets. But why do these people have regrets? Because there's still some good inside them. And the good comes and nudges them, and tells them once in a while, you shouldn't be this way. This is not who you really are. This is not right. And, okay, I'm sorry. But he's not completely sorry, because if completely sorry, he'd never do it again. And he can't get out of it. I gave the example of the guy who, he's your friend, he's your buddy, and then one day he gets filthy angry at you, and he I don't know, throws his cup of coffee in your face. And so now you're not going to talk to him again. He comes over and says, I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And you say, you apologize? Yeah, I'm not going to throw a cup of coffee in your face again. No. That was not the problem. The problem is you could. I mean, you're not going to throw. I might run you over with a tractor, but I'm not going to throw a cup of coffee in your face. So that's not the real regret scene. So, but there's still some good there. The proof is that he does have regret. It's just not complete. Doesn't. A real regret would mean like I could never do such a thing again. It wouldn't be possible for me to ever do a thing like that again. That doesn't happen. So at the time that this person is doing these bad things, then he's really a Rasha. Afterwards, when he has regret, he's not really a Rasha, but he's not a Rasha type of thing. Then you have the guy who has no regrets whatsoever. And it's not so much how much he sins. To him, there's no such thing as a sin. Just because everything is okay. And whatever he wants, that's what he does. So there's no, and here there's a nuance over there at the end of the chapter. There's no good within him. Within him, there's no good. But it's not really symmetric, parallel to the tzaddik who's completely good, because the tzaddik has no bad, not within him and not outside of him. Nowhere. Because he converted the bad into good. This guy, he chased away the bad, but it's still hovering around him in a certain way. What difference does that make? It makes one very practical difference. We can count him in a minion. Amazing. The guy's a psychopath, a sociopath, whatever, a serial murderer, rapist, whatever, and comes along with his Avodah Zarah, whatever. But we need a minion. As I told you the story about the informer who made the minion. Yeah. Okay, so we need him in the minions. He still makes them. So we say it's a very like in many things we say. For example, somebody who worships idols, we say he's kagoylical. We consider him like he's not Jewish, but we can still count him in a minion. And if he marries a Jewish woman, he's married. So there's no way out. Like somebody wrote to ask the rabbi, like, how do you get out of this? how do you dissolve your Jewishness? Like what? Yeah, that's what he wanted to do. How do I rescind it? He wants to rescind his Jewishness. I'm sorry, there's no way out. Even if a person converts, right, to have a proper conversion, there's no way out. There's only a way in. You can't get out of it. You can. How do you do with a citizenship? You can. What's it called? Rescind. Yeah, or denounce your citizenship. You can't do that as a Jew.
Is that the same with a convert?
It's a convert as well. Even though he sins, he's still considered a Yisrael. Okay, you can't get out. It's only in. There's no out. No matter what he says, he's not Jewish. In other words, I happen to have Jewish parents. We count you in the minion. That's it. And if you're Kohen, you go up there and you do it. As long as you didn't kill anybody and you didn't do Avodah Zarah, you can go. I'll tell you a story. We had a guy, a friend, he came to Yeshiva as a big guy, David Cohen. Big guy. He was an ex-heroin addict. He came from San Francisco. One day he was walking down the street and a rabbi accosts him. Are you Jewish? We need you for a minute. It's Yom Kippur. They pull him in. And then it comes to time to Duchen. Anybody here a Cohen? His name is David Cohen. Okay, you know how to do it? I remember, yeah. But you sure you want me to bless you? Yeah. You're a Cohen. Rabbi, do you know who I am? It doesn't matter. Okay. He goes up and he says, under the talus, he started crying. He says, I know who I am. And they want me to bless them. So he went into the detox program. He went clean, came to yeshiva. After a couple of years, he got married. He had kids. I heard later that he sunk back into the stuff again, but at least for 10 years or so. I remember driving with him. We're coming from Crown Heights, going to New Jersey. I don't know if you still do it, but nowadays you go on the FDR, but then you would go on Canal Street. Mm-hmm. And as he got onto Canal Street, his hands were shaking. Like he knew he can't take this route. Right? His hands are shaking. But a heroin addict to go clean, it's a hero. Even to go clean for a year, it's a hero. It's tough. But that was what did it for him. That he's a Kohen and he's duchening. He knows who he is. Amazing.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Why do you have to ask if you can ask a question? If you can't ask a question, you shouldn't ask if you can ask a question.
It's like too Socratic. All right, I'm just going to shoot it. You said something like, if you question what happened, it's like arrogant because like everything's destined by God.
When did I say this?
I don't know.
This class now?
I don't know. Someone said it. I don't know. Maybe I heard it somewhere. Someone said something that everything's destined. So if you have regrets, it's somewhat arrogant because you're questioning God's will. So isn't the Rasha actually doing a good thing by not having regrets because it's God's will? Or am I confusing two concepts?
Okay. To do a sin means this is what God wants, but God says, I'm giving you free will to do it or not do it. So that's the one thing that you can do that's against his will. Right? Hi, Mirav, thank you for coming. We got coffees and strawberries. One of the strawberries has your name on it. So what you're asking is, if everything that happens in the world is God's will, then if a person sins, it's not God's will. So it's God's will that you should have free will to not do what he wills.
Can you say it in layman's terms?
Beautiful.
I'll say it the way that Rambam says. Yeah. Just like God desires that fire should burn and water should flow, he desires that you should have free will to make a moral choice of right and wrong. So that he says, I don't want you to eat scorpions or whatever, clams. Okay, I don't want you to eat clams. But if you want to, I'm not going to stop you. Okay, now you go and you ate them. Okay.
So if I do that, I have a regret.
So you did something that was not his will. Now,
right.
There are now clams in your stomach. Is that God's will that there should be clams in your stomach? It is. The situation that you've caused is exactly where you're supposed to be. It's just that you were the one who put yourself into that situation. Yeah, that's the difficult part, but that's because he's God. He's able to do things like that. In other words, that's the gameplay, but this is something you're going to choose to make happen. He knew you were going to choose this. When he created the world, he knew that's what you're going to choose. He didn't make you choose it. He had you choose it, but that was part of the gameplay. He doesn't want you to do it. It's against his will. But it's still...
So if I do something bad and I have a regret, though, aren't I questioning his will, even though I screwed up?
No, you regret that it had to happen this way, that you had to make the wrong choice. Why did you make the wrong choice? You made the wrong choice. You shouldn't do that. Could have had somebody else eat the clams instead. Could have happened many ways. You decided you want to be the one.
So just one follow-up question.
Yeah.
Aren't most of us not Bainani, but like the Rasha with a little good? That's...
You can't know. You can't really know. Because we don't know what's expected of each of us. Like a guy asked me just this week, he asked me, if I didn't, he didn't ask about himself, asked somebody else who asked him, if he didn't keep his family customs about Passover, he kept Passover, didn't keep his family customs, does that make him a Rasha? So listen, for some people, the very fact that they didn't eat chametz for 8 days, they're a tzaddik already. And for another person, you're Rasha, it depends. And none of us can judge. You can't even know about yourself. Okay? And then I said, there seems to be a lot of people who are at the threshold. They're very at the threshold. You can't really call this guy a Bainani, You can't say he's a Russia. At the time he's sinning, he's a Russian. But right now he had a lot of regrets. And he's trying to hang on in there. And, it's not, Tanya doesn't come to say, you're Russia, you're Russia. The Alter Rebbe thinks very highly of us. Very highly of us. And he says, if you just will awaken your neshama inside you, it won't be a problem. It'll be like you'll just fly. You won't have to watch, I can't do this. Just wake up your neshama. And of course you'll do everything right. So the point is not to ask all the time, am I a Beinoni yet? Am I a Beinoni yet? But
do the right thing.
Am I waking up my neshama? Am I keeping it awake? Saw the line this week.
Thanks.
Whatchamacallit? Maybe you're following in the news. Tim Cook resigned.
He resigned, yeah.
And they asked him, so what's your advice to, I can't remember the guy who was taking over Apple. He said, I give the same advice that Steve Jobs gave me. Perfect. Only one line I needed to hear the whole time. What's Steve Jobs telling you? He said, just do the right thing. He said, so when it comes to I can do it this way, I can do this way. Well, the company ethics is that we're doing the right thing for the consumer. Is this the right thing for the consumer? And he says, even if it veers off this way, maybe you lose some money here, as long as you keep I'm just doing the right thing, you'll end up in the right place. So that's what we're talking. You don't have to think, am I a Beinoni yet? Am I a Beinoni? Will I ever become? No, just think, am I doing the right thing? And what's the right thing? Where are my thoughts? What am I thinking about? What am I speaking about? What am I doing? Okay. So as long as your head is, basically, if your head is in the right place, your heart will be in the right place and everything else will flow. That's what and the main thing is your head and heart. That's it. And your heart's going to be where your head is. That's what we're going to find out in this chapter, in this very chapter where we are now.
Good segue. Exactly.
Chapter 12. As for the Beinoni, this is someone who the bad in him never dominates enough to conquer the small city. Never succeeding in investing himself within this person to cause him to sin. So has he won the war? No. He has not won the war. Is there still a battle going on? But the enemy can't get anywhere. He never loses territory. He keeps the enemy quelled. He has control of the straits. Everything that's moving in and out, he has control of. So he doesn't lose any battles, but he's not really winning them. Okay, so he has, thank you very much. He has dominance. Which one should I have?
I don't know.
This is the one I had last week, so I'll have it again. So we're drinking tea, if anybody there. Okay, so he's still battling, but he's always winning. It's very hard to imagine this in a battle, but in your body's health, you can imagine this. If you have a healthy immune system, the bugs never win, right? The viruses can't get anywhere. Maybe you've seen there's some people that never get sick. They go their whole life. You can imagine it? There are people who go through their entire life never catching a cold. They never get sick. They have such a healthy immune system. Nothing can break in. So if there's something wrong, it means the immune system was sick at wasn't strong enough. There was some stress, or there was a lack of sleep or something. Usually stress is what does it. And now the immune system was down because you didn't have enough energy for both immune system and what you had to do. So, and then the stuff got in. As long as you're healthy, the bugs are there. Body's full of all those bacteria and all those nasty viruses, and they're all there, but they can't get anywhere. As soon as they start up, bang, we got them down. That's what happens. A healthy person is not a person who has no bacteria foreign bacteria there, enemy bacteria or viruses there. On the contrary, to have a strong immune system, you have to have exposure to those things. A healthy person, though, is as soon as they start up, bang, we got them down. That's a Beinoni. The Beinoni is Nefesh Elokis, is wide and awake enough that if anything starts off, no, we don't do that. And that's it. End of story. We don't do that. We don't say that. We don't even think about that. It comes up in your mind, and it's there in your mind, and you know, as soon as you notice, I don't think those things. We get into details. Never succeeding in investing itself within this person, like embodying itself within him to cause him to sin. That means that the three clothes of the animal soul, thought, speech, and action from the side of Klippa, never override the divine soul. They never embody themselves within him. Embody themselves in his brain, his mouth, or any of his other 248 limbs to cause him to sin, make him tameh. Heaven again, you see tameh. Not tameh in the sense that he has to go to the mikveh, but tameh in the sense that he's, for a moment, at the time a person is doing something wrong. Say at the time a person is speaking, Rahman al-Atzlan, God forbid, Lashon Hara, or making fun of somebody. At that time, that person is tameh. Right? But that doesn't happen with the Beinoni. As soon as the bad is trying to get there, he says, no, we don't do that. Isn't the Shabbos awake? Rather, the only three layers of clothing vested in this body are those of the divine soul. Thought, speech, and action are 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, which includes, of course, eating, sleeping, all those other things. But he's doing all of those, l'shem shamayim, for a divine purpose. Everything is purposeful. So,
would you repeat what thought, if he has a bad thought, that makes him...
If he entertains, in other words, the thought comes to him, and he says, yeah, let me think about that. For example, what would be a bad thought that's actually itself an avera? He thinks, my wife's pretty, but the other guy's wife, she's a little prettier. Maybe no. We don't think those thoughts. So that's not a good thought. We don't think about that.
So what does that make it?
If he would entertain those thoughts, he would say, yeah, let me think about, tonight at 10 o'clock, I'll go to her apartment. No, then he's a rush at that point.
What if he thinks, so that makes
He has
him a
regrets
Russia?
after, I'm not going to think about other women that way. I'm married. Then he's not a Russian.
Okay.
Something along those lines. And again, I don't think we can make blanket statements, because there are some people who just the very fact that they went for 2 hours without sinning is incredible. So it depends on who and where they live. And what I'm saying just in generalities, abstractions amongst people like us.
Someone like Lakish, though, was everything at one point of his life, no?
Rocky?
No. Not Rocky. Rabbi Lakish.
Rabbi Lakish. He did all these things at one time, but then he did tshuva.
So he was a Rasha, and then he was a Rasha.
And then he became a tzaddik.
So he went through all the layers, though.
Yeah. Well, maybe he skipped Beinoni. He went through. This is the Beinoni, and we're going to find out what makes him not a tzaddik. So he says, as the person he is today, he has never sinned all his life. He will never sin, and he hasn't once earned the title of Rasha, even for one instance or one moment all his days, which doesn't mean that he never sinned. But as the person he is today, he never sinned. You don't get it?
Mm.
He gets it. Clay gets it.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain to John?
So again, what happened then is
Speak
that,
loud so the people in little boxes here can.
there are
Yeah.
people in little boxes.
Yeah, in here. They're
Okay.
stuck in these little boxes.
I was saying, what happened then was then, but what Rabbi is saying is today, now, he is the Beinoni, right?
When you tell him, but didn't you used to do this and do this? He says, that was a different person. I'm not the same person anymore that did those things.
That's
I have transformed myself.
But that's like killing a bunch of people, going to the confessional, and then you start fresh.
Well,
I'll tell you, I told you the story with the guy. The guy is sitting in jail, and the rabbis come to visit him. Bad rabbis come to visit him, and he's telling the whole story. He was in a business, he took a partner. Partner ripped him off and ripped everybody off and got him in a lot of trouble. And then they take him to trial, and the partner somehow just slipped away and disappeared. And he gets thrown in jail.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Okay. So they tell him, it's not nice of him. Tell us, describe him. Where can we find him? He gives them some clues. And they found him. They found him. It was hard to recognize him because now he had long payas and a beard. Right? And he's sitting in Kelo in Jerusalem, Bnei Brak, somewhere, learning Torah and everything. And they say, you're this guy. Yeah. So it's not nice. Like your partner's sitting there in jail. And like, it's not nice. You have to go and do something for him. And he says, me? You don't understand. I did tshuva. I'm no longer the same person. No, that's not called teshuva.
No.
You got to fix up your mess, or it's not teshuva, right? Okay, but we're talking about somebody who really did teshuva all the way. So now, by his type of teshuva, all the way, he disowns those things. So Reish Lakish would say, I'm not that person anymore. I'm no longer, I disowned all of that. I had such deep regret, I ripped it off of me. I'm not there anymore. So as the person he is today, he has never sinned.
Understand.
It couldn't possibly enter his territory.
So like King David after the thing with, what's her name?
That's it.
Bathsheba.
So you can have a type of tshuva that doesn't have that. There's other things that don't do that. Yeah, okay, we go back to there's a Gemara that goes like this. She gets married. Under the chuppah, the guy says to her, "You're hereby married to me on condition," and he slips in. As long as you have no blemishes I don't know about. And she knows that she has a big wart somewhere. Okay. So she accepts, get married. The next day she goes to a doctor and says, take off the wart. He takes off the wart. Are they married? No, because she had a wart. And now she's a woman who had a wart, and at the time she had a wart. Okay, another situation. If you got that one, okay? Another situation. Under the chuppah, he says, you're hereby married to him, and he's a little suspicious of her. As long as you have no vows, like not to drink wine. Like he doesn't want to marry a woman who doesn't drink wine. And she's made a vow that she's not going to drink wine. Okay, so the next morning, after the marriage, she goes to the rabbi and says, I got a problem here with him. And the rabbi says to her, if you had known that by making this vow not to drink wine, you wouldn't get married, would you have made the vow? She says, absolutely not. Okay, then it's as if you never made the vow. And she's married. Because with the wart, there was a wart there and it was taken away. With the vow, when the vow is now annulled, it's like, you never made this. Because if you had known about this, you wouldn't have made this vow. So it's as though you never made this vow at all. It was never there. That's what tshuva accomplishes. Okay, if a person does tshuva, but he does the tshuva because he knows he did this sin, and he knows God's going to get him for that. I don't want God to get me for that. I'm doing tshuva. I'm not going to do that again. Then it's like he did something bad, like a wart that got removed. He did something bad, but he regretted it, so God's not going to punish him. He's like he got a defense, good defense lawyer. He can't get punished, but he did do something bad. But if at a certain point along the way he says, "How could I have done such a thing? This is my God. I want to be close to him. I can't do things like that."
I understand.
That's tshuva me'ava.
I understand.
Then it's as though he never did it to begin with.
One's like covering your butt. The other one's just deep regret.
Yeah, it's a regret, a true regret. Not just I want to get out of this,
I understand.
but I regret.
I understand.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech el Moshiach, kol niyah b'dvaro.
Amen.
So that he's a person who did that type of a tshuva, and therefore it's as though he never sinned. And it's not, he never will, as he is. Okay, something could come up that he never expected, that he could never imagine, like Potiphar's wife or something like that. But he's in such a state. Okay. Okay. So why is he not a tzaddik? Why is he? So explains why he's not a tzaddik. On the other hand, when it comes to the essence and core of the divine soul, meaning its 10 aspects, the chokhmah, bina, the mind and emotions, chesed, av, yira, they do not have exclusive dominion and control over the small city. He's not really, in other words, he can't control how his heart feels. Somebody says something and he gets really angry and he wants to punch the guy in the face. He does not. He controls himself. He walks out of the room. He doesn't say what he shouldn't say, okay? He just walks out of, but he did. And he knows I shouldn't lose my temper. I did. Okay. Or he sees a hot blonde and he starts, okay. But I don't do that, I'm a married man. Stay away. But he still has the urge. He might even smell some cheeseburger, and he used to eat, even though he did tshuva, but he has an urge. He still has the urge. Okay, he's not responsible for that. And thoughts come up in his mind. Okay, thoughts come up in his mind. So he hasn't sinned. It's just he has the urge to do it. So he doesn't have control over that. That's why he's not a tzaddik. Later we'll find out that in a certain way that makes him greater than a tzaddik. Because he's constantly fighting a battle. In that way he's greater. He's constantly serving God in every moment, in every thought that he pushes out of his mind, and every word that he doesn't say. He's a tzaddik doesn't say those words, no big deal. He's a tzaddik. The Beni doesn't say those words. Wow, that's amazing.
But if you're fighting 100 battles and you lose 10, does that make you a Rasha? Or are you still a Beni? I know it's subjective.
That's a very good question. Every time he's fighting the battle and winning, he's serving Hashem. In
that second, he's a Beni.
Yeah. In that second, is he a Beinoni? That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to. But what he's saying over here is that your divine soul is alive enough that it's not going to stumble in thought, speech, and action. But you don't have the neshama of a tzaddik. You can't turn around that animal. It's like you're riding the horse, but the horse remains a horse. The tzaddik is riding the horse, and the horse is like nothing. The horse became part of him. Yours, it's still a horse. So that's what happens. So does he ever get this? Does he ever get to be a tzaddik? Does the Beinoni ever get to be a tzaddik? This is interesting. So you're asking, can he be a Rasha sometimes? Well, he's not. He doesn't do that because he's constantly awake, healthy. But does he ever get to be a tzaddik? And yeah, he can. And this is where a Beinoni can have trouble because he feels at certain points he's a tzaddik. And he has to know that he's not. But it's occasions in his life when it feels like, wow, I'm there already. I don't feel any Yetzer Hara right now. I'm there. Yes, no, he's not. So again, so that kind of control only occurs on certain occasions. For example, the time of reading the Shema in prayer. So that's a time of expansive consciousness, above and so to below. It's an opportune time for any person to enter a similar state, this expansive consciousness. So at that time, you can connect your faculties of Chabad, Chacham Bina Das, wisdom, understanding, realization to God. You can dive deep into contemplations of the greatness of the infinite so as to awaken love like coals of fire on the right side of your heart to bond with God through fulfilling the Torah and its mitzvahs is love, right? You do that all the time, right? No? Okay,
Once a week.
At least. So that's what it's all about. That's what reading Kriya Shema, right? That's what Shema is all about. An instruction straight out of Torah is telling you, okay, that's what Kriya Shema is. The Torah says you have to say Shema. That's what it means. It means at that time you go into a state of complete B'ahavta, love God, and you feel it, and it's there. You're there. You don't feel any Yetzer Hara at that point. As for the blessings that come before and after, which are rabbinic, they're preparation, fulfillment of reading Shema. It's explained elsewhere. At that time, the bad that's in the left ventricle is suppressed and batel. It's batel. It's like nothing, negligible, nothing. It's like it's not there to the good. That's because that good is expanding in the right chamber due to the faculties of wisdom, understanding, realization, the brain being connected to the greatness of the infinite. So at the time of his tefillah, he feels, wow, there's no Yetzer Hara. I'm just plugged into God. And that's all I feel. I feel this great love. So, but after prayer, when that expansive consciousness of the infinite departs, the bad reawakens in the left chamber, craving all its cravings, and then he's back again. So this the Alter Rebbe realized was driving many of his Hasidim nuts. This experience that at the time of tefillah, I was there. And now the tefillah is over, and it's like back again, like nothing happened. So he had to explain to them, you have a beast inside. The beast at a certain point realizes, oh, you can do your tefillah thing. Wake me up when it's over. And they're like, it wasn't there. Your beast is like, it's not there, not even there at the time. Totally oblivious to the whole thing. And so as soon as you finish, the beast says, oh, it's over. Let's get back to business again. So he deals with this elsewhere. How it gives you strategies for taking the beast along with you in your tefillah. So maybe your tefillah won't be so high, it won't take you so high, but the beast will be there and won't bug you so much afterwards. But even now, by having that experience once in a while, you have that experience is enough to give you strength the rest of the time to overcome the beast. So after the prayer, it's back again to all the cravings. So that's why he's not a tzaddik. It comes back again, craving all its cravings of the world's pleasures, but because it does not have governing status in the city, because the Beinoni is Nefesh Elokis, okay, doesn't have governing status in a small city, so it cannot actually manifest its craving to bring it from potential to actual. Can't get that craving out openly to be actually invested within the person in real action, speech, or thought. That doesn't happen. It can't get this Beinoni to take his mind deeply into the pleasures of this world, to consider satisfying these cravings of his heart. He won't even do that. I thought of it, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. That's because the mind rules over the heart. This phrase you're going to see repeated in Tanya like over and over again. The mind rules over the heart. It does so innately by nature of its design. That is how a human being is created to be from birth. Every human being is capable, by virtue of the resolve within his brain, to restrain himself and govern the craving spirit in his heart. So at any time. And it's stunning to see how many people don't know this. The guy who said in court, he shot his neighbor. He said, well, I told him, he keeps on doing that. I'm going to lose my temper. And I told him, when I lose my temper, I lose control. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I warned him. And nevertheless, he went and did it again. So it's his fault. So the thing is, there are times that the Yetzer convinces you that you have no control anymore. You can't. You have. I must do this. I must do it. But you don't. Actually, the Alter Rebbe says it elsewhere. He says very beautifully. He says, "What should a person do when he feels that his Yetzer is burning inside him, and he just has to? He just has to." He says he should imagine that he's surrounded by a ring of fire, and the fire is closing in on him from all directions. What should he do? What should he do? He should just walk through it because it's just his imagination. Imagine there's a ring of fire. It's an imaginary ring of fire. Just imagine it. What should I do? I should walk through it because it's my imagination. The same thing when your Yetzer is burning inside you. Tell, well, it's my Yetzer. I don't have to listen to it. So that's how the human being is designed. Our brains are bigger than our hearts. And bigger than our kishkas too. So yes, the heart has its palpitations, and the guts have theirs, and they may in the immediate they may get you, but your brain always has the capacity to override them and say, no, we're not doing that. There are certain points, like a child has a tantrum, or people lose their temper, and at that point they've lost control, just fallen off the handle. So but before that, getting into that situation, they didn't have to allow themselves to get into that situation. You have the control to know, if I stick around over here and a little longer, I'm going to fly off the handle and getting out of here. Okay, so you're responsible. A person is always responsible for his actions. In halacha, that's the way it is. No matter what, the person is always considered responsible for the actions, unless they were very seriously drunk, and then they're responsible for they shouldn't have gotten so seriously drunk. Okay?
Rabbi, on that note, is there a reason, or is there anything that says something that people are more, have a higher propensity to do bad things when it gets closer to night than in the morning? Like, if you think about it, people get drunk, they do bad things. It's in the dark of night. It's not like at 9 a.m. in the morning. People drink coffee in the morning. They don't get drunk in the morning.
I know for myself, you see this thing here. 9:30 at night, I plug it in downstairs and I go upstairs.
Right.
And that's it, because I know that if it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm tired and I want to go to bed, I'm going to start looking at stuff and find all sorts of excuses because I'm too tired to control.
But people lose control and do bad things more at night, I see.
Yeah, so you stay away from those things.
But is there a reason for that?
They say that the people who have self-control don't put themselves in situations that require self-control. Don't go there, right? Don't be there. That's a major part of it. But at any point, a person is responsible for their actions, even when sleeping. The halacha is that if you were asleep and you rolled over and hurt somebody, you're liable. Unless you were asleep, and I'd say you were asleep and the guy decided to put a glass vase right next to you, then he's responsible. He shouldn't have put it there. But if you lay down next to somebody's fine pottery, you're responsible. Crush it. So you're responsible. So a person. So this is very key. Every human being is capable, which will resolve within his brain, restrain himself. Now he's not capable of overriding his emotions. That we don't say. He's not capable of, I'm not going to think those thoughts. They're not going to ever come to my mind. But I don't have to dwell on them. That right? So he may feel, I want to say this, but I don't have to. You got a big brain. That's what human beings have, big brains. And they can override these things over and over. Now that's actually what happens with what do they call it? Eating disorders. Eating disorders.
Anorexia.
Yeah, those things.
Bulimia.
In both ways, yeah. So it was originally thought that there must be something hormonal wrong with these people. But it turned out that's not the case. The anorexic, the hormones in the body, the whole body is screaming, give me food. And their brains are overriding the body. And the same thing with people who are obese and can't stop eating. Their body is saying, I don't want to eat, and the brain is overriding it. So it's, even in those disorders, it's the brain doing it. Now, what about if a person has a chemical addiction? I don't think it's talking about those people. I don't think that's what it's talking about. It's talking about a person who is in the natural state of a human being. Even a person with the eating disorder, they need therapy. I don't think it's talking about that type of people. So you do not need to satisfy the demands of your heart, not in deed, speech, or in action. It's such a redeeming statement. That's because it burns doesn't mean you have to do it.
Could your heart be right when
This is the most important thing you can teach a person, teach a child. You don't need to satisfy the demand. But I want it. The child says, but I want it. Okay, you can want it. That's okay. You don't have to have it. And kids just don't get it until maybe they're 12, 13 years old, 14, 40 years old. Some people 50. Okay, it takes some people time.
Rabbi, but what about when it seems like the right thing?
Tell Donald Trump.
But like, remember when
I want Greenland, but you don't understand. I need to have Greenland.
But what about like King Saul? Like when he wanted to spare the people because he thought like, why kill these people? And then God rebuked him because it was like the wrong thing. But on the face value, it looked like, it's a bad thing to kill the people.
Yeah, I don't know. Shlomo Melech, when he went kind of insane, I don't know. There's many ways of interpreting it. But you're not Shlomo Melech. You have to know you do not need to satisfy the demands of your heart, not in deed, speech, or in action. You are capable of switching over your mind completely from your heart's cravings to the polar opposite, especially to thoughts that belong to the realm of holiness.
To the realm of what?
Holiness, right? So even though your mind is thinking about this, I can decide I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking about this. You won't believe how many people have said to me, you can't control what your mind's thinking about. Because they've never done that. No, you can choose what you want to think about right now. I don't know how many people in the world do it. Out of 8.5 billion, I don't know, a couple thousand maybe.
Control the thoughts.
But you can choose what it is you want to think about.
That's
Right
a
now.
big thing in pop psychology now.
Which ones?
In pop psychology, you
Uh-huh.
can change your thoughts.
You can change your thoughts, but people read about it. How many of them actually
How many
do it?
do it?
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Change your thought. They come and tell me, I can't help it. I can't. That's what I'm thinking. I can't help it. But I'm feeling this way right now. That's the way I'm feeling. So that's the way I have to think. No, you can be feeling miserable and decide, I'm not going to think miserable thoughts. And that's how you get out of it. But try to teach that to somebody. They say, just give me the pills. Just give me the pills. No, the pills are not going to get you over it. You have to learn that you don't have to think those thoughts. Okay? And you're capable. And it says to the polar opposite. And there are those who disagreed. As you look in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, he says, if you're not able of turning your mind to the polar opposite, at least think about nice mountains or something like that. But here he writes, especially to thoughts of Kedusha. Like it should be easier for your mind to come to thoughts of Kedusha than to other things. And he brings a verse to support him. It's written, King Solomon said, I have seen that there is an advantage to wisdom over foolishness, as the advantage of light over darkness. What advantage does light have over darkness? Does light have to fight with darkness? There was light in the room, and in the next room there was dark. So somebody went to the light and said, "Light, would you like to meet darkness?" And the light said, "I'd love to meet darkness. Everybody's told me so much about darkness, and I've never met darkness." "Well, it's your happy day. There's darkness right in the next room. Let me come and see." Okay, we opened the door. Where'd he go? As soon as you came in, he left. Hey, he always does that. Okay, so that's, if there's light, there's no darkness. That's it. Okay, and that's the same thing with wisdom over foolishness. It's just gone. And that's the way the Nefesh Elokis wins over the Nefesh, the divine soul wins over the animal soul. It just comes in and it's gone. And that's how your brain wins over the foolish thoughts of your heart. Just bring it in. Which is why it should be easier to turn to thoughts of Kedusha, because that's where the light shines the brightest. Just bring that in and all this nonsense is gone. That's all. So you say, well, just think some Torah thought. I can't. I'm depressed right now. I can't think those thoughts. Well, think these good. No, I can't. If you will, it will just be gone. Okay, you'll still feel some heaviness and it's going to be there. But eventually that'll go away as well. You just keep on turning your mind there, turning your mind there, turning your mind there, and it's gone. So there's a very powerful statements. And the only way people get around it is they say, it's not true, can't, not possible, you don't know my situation, you haven't been through the trauma I've been through. And people find excuses to stay in their mud. That's all that it is. So, I mean, a person suffering PTSD or something like that, or their chemical addictions, that we're not talking about that. But everybody has some sort of trauma. Many of us have some extreme trauma in our life. We're still able to control where our thoughts go and what we want to think about. And that's the most liberating thing you can give a person, which is why most people don't want to accept it, because they want to stay under chains. They don't want to be liberated.
That's a good point.
It's a story from the French Revolution, where on the day that they liberated the Bastille, where all the political prisoners were, and they're prisoners who had been there for 10, 20 years, political prisoners. And they say there was one man, they came there and he had a ball and chain on his ankle. So they came with a saw to take off the ball and chain. And he starts screaming, "Don't take it off, don't take it off." Why? "How will I walk?" What do you mean, how will I walk? Well, to walk, I put it in front of me, then I walk, and I put it in front of me, then I walk. That's how I walk. That's how I've been walking for 20 years. If you take it off, how will I walk? Same. You come and tell people that you can liberate yourself by controlling your thoughts, and don't think, I can't. If I don't give in to my depression, I can't live. If I don't give in to my anger, I can't live. If I don't do what I want, take whatever pleasures I want, I can't live. No, you're chained. It's a ball and chain. You can overcome that. I can't. Okay. So that's it for this week. And next week we go on to more about how the light pushing away darkness. It's not Eleanor Roosevelt's words. The little light pushes away great darkness. I think it's from Rabbeinu Bachya originally, somebody like that. But he takes it to great lengths over here and gives more examples of what makes the baby. Yeah, that's the stuff I couldn't put the translation next to it parallel yet. This translation's first draft. We haven't gone over and done the second draft yet. Okay. Up to chapter 10, I think we were learning first, and even chapter 10 still in progress. It is. Chapter 9 should be out like next week or so, next 2 weeks. Chapter 10 is almost done. Hey, Mendel Barber, nice to see you. Keep in touch. So, but next week we'll go on with chapter 12, with his first draft translation. Okay, see you then.